Hello. We've just had First Vespers of the Octave Day of the Holy Innocents, and the Roman Catholic Church are in mourning for the passing of Pope Benedict XVI. Pope Benedict was indeed a very clever and profound theologian, and some of his work is truly outstanding. I'm reminded of something he said about forgiveness, where the idea is that forgiveness is not about forgetting something, not about forgetting an act, but rather it is participating in the healing of that act. Which is, if you think about it, a huge challenge. Anyone who's been wronged should forgive. The Lord's Prayer says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive them that trespass against us." We are to be forgiven as we forgive. The two go hand in hand. And that's a huge challenge, particularly when the offence against us is so enormous. So we have that problem to deal with, to face at an act and somehow seek out its healing. We are to love our enemies, meaning we are to will their good. The very person who has hurt us to the core, somehow we have to want them to thrive, to be perfected. Perhaps that's not such a hard thing to want, except when the person has already taken from you more than you could possibly imagine. We live in a time where forgiveness is a very rare commodity, sometimes with justification and sometimes without. And there is a big danger in not forgiving and in allowing an enmity to continue. One example I would like to give is of how a biblical statement has led to one of the greatest atrocities going. At the crucifixion of our Lord, just before he is sent to Calvary, our Lord is presented by Pilate to the people, for them to choose whether he lives or whether Barabbas is set free. And in St. Matthew's Gospel, of course they choose Barabbas, and they say, "Crucify" to Jesus. And Pilate asks, "Well, what's he done?" And the scribes and Pharisees stir up the people to say, and here's the thing, "His blood be upon us and upon our children." And that is such a terrifying statement to make, because it has given sanction for Christians to hate the Jews. There has been a history of Christians using the action that the Jews are responsible for the death of Christ to perpetuate a hatred, and it's been worked up throughout history. into anti-Semitism, and well, we don't really need to be reminded of the events of last century. The fact of the matter is that whatever those Jews said in front of Pilate, our Lord Jesus Christ is still Jewish in his human nature. He is still part of the Old Testament people, the people beloved of God, the seed of Abraham, with whom we share inheritance. And so we see the problem, that a historical wrong perpetuates through to an atrocity, maybe thousands of years later. And perhaps we see something similar happening in our society, where there are demands for a righting of a historical wrong. And if you think about it, that can't happen. Healing can't take place for us back in time. With a historical wrong, we do have to look at ourselves and say, just how wronged are we? Now, for some people, that historical wrong does still continue. Racism is still with us. Misogyny is still with us. It's not something that has gone away. And we have to ask ourselves, why not? Why has these evils not gone away? But can we really hold to account the memory of a slave trader who died 300 years ago? No. No, because his account is already being dealt with by God. Just as he is judged by God, so we are judged by God. We stand together before the judgment seat for that. To forgive is to participate in the healing of that wrong. To inject love. It means that we somehow have to think the impossible. That the wrong done to us can be no more. And that's a huge challenge. God says that he will wipe away every tear from every eye. And so the key to any form of challenge is to fall back on the grace of God. St. Benedict talks about what happens if a senior gives a junior an impossible task to do. And the junior is permitted to ask the senior to simplify or to lessen the task. But if the senior refuses to do so, the junior is expected to get on with it by the grace of God. To know that somehow this effort is God's work. Forgiveness is a terrible thing. It does cause people to stumble. It causes Christians to stumble. because they can't let go. And you have to ask yourself, well, why can't I let go? Why am I holding on to this? Forgiveness can only come if we are people of prayer. That even in our deepest agony, the fiercest of anger, and the greatest confusion, if we can stand up and continue to pray, the Lord's Prayer, then we can be sure of God's love and God's help. That somehow forgiveness can happen. But there isn't a formula for it. There's no magic formula. There's no self-help books. Even talking to a priest isn't going to be enough. Because the problem of forgiveness lies within you as an individual. And it is yours for ownership. It is part of the cross that you have to bear for Christ, and upon which you are crucified to the world. Pope Benedict led a church that is riven and riddled with clerical abuses. And those abuses must be dealt with. They must be brought to the light. The abusers must receive must give an account of their actions before God. That will happen. But we can't blame the entire church. We cannot tar every Catholic priest with the epithet that they are some way or form a child abuser. It's not true. Society needs to learn to forgive again, and that's what Christians are for, to teach society how to forgive. So God bless you. God bless you if you are struggling to forgive, if there is some momentous wrong that's been done to you. God bless you that you may receive his grace and that you may come to forgiveness, not in forgetting what's happened, but in participating in that healing. God bless you if you are struggling to forgive yourself an act of which you burn with shame and guilt. God bless you that you may be released from that by the love of God. And God bless you as you stand with us all before the judgment seat of Christ, and know that that judgment is dealt with in the purest and most burning love that beyond which we can imagine, but nonetheless has eternity and joy written into it. God bless you, and please pray for me.